It's incredible, isn't it, how in such a desperate scramble to appear sort of progressive and inclusive, sometimes they can get it so wrong. I'm of course talking about the Olympic Games, and more specifically the segment of the Olympic opening ceremony which depicted what can only be described as the Last Supper in drag. Now, the Olympic Commission have now come out and apologised for this absolute abomination of a show, but in case you haven't seen it, and I would recommend going to watch it, but you will feel your IQ dropping as you do so. If you haven't seen it, basically it was a whole load of guys in drag and other types of, dare we say, show people, recreating a version of Da Vinci's The Last Supper, obviously, which depicts Jesus and his disciples just before he is betrayed by Judas. And in a desperate scramble to appear progressive and inclusive, they managed to insult pretty much everyone. Now, I'm speaking as a non-partisan, non-religious kind of a guy, but they have been faced with a lot of backlash from Christian groups who said it was basically straight up blasphemy. And of course, yeah, if you're religious and you believe in that, then of course, yeah, it is. It's an insult to your religion. I think also it's an insult more widely to Western culture. France is, despite the best efforts of the French government, still at large a white Christian country. And by putting on something like this, which directly seeks to imitate or in many respects insult the Christian faith, is really a case of not knowing your audience. Who else was insulted? Well, I think that actually if you are a genuine trans person, you too would be insulted. If you are someone who has gone through your life believing you were born into the wrong sex body, if you've gone through all the stages it requires to transition, if you have gone through the painful process and all the psychological trauma of that, and you are slowly managing to deal with your gender dysmorphia in a way that helps you to live a happier life, to see this represented by what is clearly a bloke with a beard dancing provocatively in a short skirt and suspenders and pretending to be one of the disciples, I would take as a personal insult. And for everyone else, well, it's simply an insult to our intelligence. Now, the biggest thing about this, and the worst thing I think about this, and this is how we've lost so much sight of what the opening ceremony should be about and what true progression actually is that amongst this sort of half-baked apology that the Olympic Commission come out with, they said it was supposed to be a message of love and of equality and inclusion. And of course it's about equality and inclusion, isn't it? Because it's 2024 and everything has to be about equality and inclusion. If you'd taken the time to watch the whole of the opening ceremony and managed to survive it without slipping into a boredom-induced coma, then what you would have seen is boats sailing down the Seine with participants in the Olympic Games from over 200 different countries. Now this means that these are people from every corner of the earth, every race, every nationality, every ethnicity. For the first time in, I think, forever, there is as many female competitors as there are male competitors in this Olympic Games. And there are people from all sexualities as well. In fact, one of Britain's most decorated Olympians is a diver named Tom Daley, who's openly gay and often is seen with his husband at the Games. So, if that isn't diverse and inclusive enough, then what is? The Olympic Games is by definition the epitome of diversity and inclusion. It doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what your economic background, it doesn't matter what colour your skin is, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your sexuality, it doesn't matter. If you are good in your discipline, if you are one of the best in your discipline, then you can compete in the Olympic Games. Now that is true inclusion, that is true diversity, and to try and represent true diversity through a whole load of men in drags, and let's face it, circus acts, and that's not a homophobic or anti-trans thing to say. These are not genuine trans people. These are circus clowns performing in a provocative way to get a response, or to get a reaction, or indeed to push this idea of progressivism, is an insult to everyone concerned and has nothing to do with the Olympic Games, be that the diversity element or indeed the fact that it is the ultimate meritocracy. Like I say, if you have the ability, if you have the talent, if you put the work in to become the best of the best, then you can compete at the Olympic Games. Now, of course, it would be remiss not to acknowledge that certain people will have certain privileges will have certain opportunities that may not be available to people that are from less economically developed countries. Appreciate that the training facilities, etc., will be better in certain countries than they are in others. But there is no barriers to entry based on your ethnicity. There is no barriers to entry based on your sexuality, your race, your age, your sex. None of it. Okay? The only barrier to entry is your ability, and that is how it should be. And the opening ceremony to the Games should have been a celebration of that. It should have been a celebration of exceptional human accomplishment. It should have been a celebration of human achievement and what we can do as a species. It should have been a celebration of past French Olympic heroes. It should have been a celebration of that desire, that unrelenting need to achieve and to win. It should have been that. Instead, we got treated to, dare I say, a freak show, all in the name of progressivism, which fell flat on its face, insulted everyone in the process, and didn't even provide the message that it purported to do.